Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to this new episode of my podcast. I'm joined today by Sam Boboev. He's a very important figure in this whole fintech payments industry. He's done a lot of things in this area. So I'm going to leave it to Sam to introduce himself. But before that, I just wanted to thank you for coming to my podcast. It's an absolute pleasure and honor.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you for inviting. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam. I've been working in the payments industry for the past 7 years. By profession, I'm a product manager. Had the chance to build products in different regions, different countries. I am originally from Uzbekistan, and then later on, I moved to the UK and Europe. And now, very recently, actually, I moved full time to focus on my own media venture, Fintech Wrap Up, where I just focus on payments, fintech, banking, AI in payments and banking. And currently, what I'm doing is that I'm creating different kinds of content, short form, long form, on my LinkedIn profile as well as my newsletters. And very recently, I launched my own podcast where I have different guests and we discuss different topics around fintech and payments.
Well, actually, as a matter of fact, I wanted to start by talking a bit about your background and journey. No, I mean, as you mentioned before, you've built this very diverse career in fintech, from product roles to founding a
Yeah,
fintech wrap app. So I
yeah,
wanted to ask you, first of all, how has your perspective, your point of view evolved over time when it comes
yeah.
to fintech in general? And also, what lessons you've learned along the way when it comes to fintech, to payments?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. That's a great question, actually. When I just started my journey in fintech, actually, uh, when I graduated from university, actually, I started in medical tech company, but after a while, I moved to fintech locally in Uzbekistan. I worked for a Click. It's one of the biggest payment companies in the market with more than 10 million customers. And when I was just getting started, the market and the products all over there was about payment processing and alternative payment methods, how to improve the customer experience. And especially if you talk about emerging markets such as Uzbekistan, or if you look into Asia, it was about super applications, how to combine everything in one place and give a unified customer experience. However, over time, things start changing dramatically. For example, and at one point, we were all focusing on embedded finance, right? How to enable non-financial companies to integrate financial products into their own ecosystem and start offering payment solutions or banking solutions or card issuing, and how to increase customer lifetime value, or how to keep customers loyal to your product and keep them coming back. But very recently, we see the trend changing towards more agentic payments or AI in payments or agentic commerce, where now AI basically starts managing your payments, start managing your expenses, both for individuals as well as customers. Also, we see active role AI playing active role in commerce, where they give you recommendations, where they tell you what to buy or maybe what not to buy. Actually, yesterday I had a call about this topic on my podcast, and one of the problems with agent commerce was, okay, those AI agents are trained on old data. What do we do when something just comes out? My
Mhm.
guest told me his experience with iPhone. He said he asked AI agent for recommendation about iPhone Air, which he uses, and AI refused to give him recommendations, saying this product is not live yet, but it was live, and he kept saying, okay, I'm using this phone and I'm giving you recommendation over this phone. And so there are still places where AI can work and improve, but
Mhm.
overall trend now, in my opinion, is moving towards more AI in payments and how we could utilize it to improve the customer experience, be it business, be it individual customers.
Okay, so now that you mentioned this, which is very interesting, I think it would be fair to ask you, uh, what do you think is going to be the role of AI in payments? Because many people talk about generative AI, and many people use ChatGPT, but I think that one of the most fascinating applications of AI is precisely, in banking. We talk about AI banks, all these things. So what's going to be
Mm.
the role of AI in payments specifically?
Well, I would divide it into two categories. First of all, I would divide it depending on the customer type, individual and business, because AI plays different roles for different types of customers, and we have different problems, right? For example, myself, I was focusing mostly AI in business payments, how AI is going to help businesses to improve their experience, and etc. At one point, I was really interested in, for example, AI in payment reconciliations, collecting data, reconciling, into helping businesses with expense management. And at one point, I was even about to launch my own company in that direction, because in one of my previous companies, we had this problem, right? We had a separate team within our finance team to help us to collect financial information from our partners and from service providers, reconcile it, and ensure that we close our books correctly. One of the aspects of AI helping the businesses, particularly, I see in expense management and transaction reconciliation, where you can have AI or agentic AI, I would say, as a part of your finance team that would just take the burden of manual work of collecting, matching transactions, and just in the end, they give you the results saying like, hey, I managed all this. I see that many transactions matching, but I also see some of them are not matching. I went, did my investigation. I requested additional information over the email or whatever that is, and then I see that was the reason. This is one aspect I see how AI could potentially help the businesses. But of course, there are many more things that could be done. I see, for example, Ramp and Brex. They are doing a lot of things when it comes to AI, and Ramp was able to raise huge amounts of money. Like very recently, in a couple of months, they raised twice. If I'm not mistaken, the last one was 300 millions or something like that at $22.5 billion valuation, and it was particularly because of AI. However, when it comes to individual customers, so far it's again my experience. I'm trying to go and dig deeper into practical things that AI can offer, but so far it's mostly about reconciling your expenses and giving you maybe advice on how to do things. But other than that, it's almost the same experience of chatbot. However,
Mhm.
recently I had a conversation with chief experience officer of a Chime, Janelle, where she mentioned they are actively implementing agentic AI in customer support. And they, if I'm not mistaken, if I recall it correctly, they said they see 71% improvement in overall customer experience and satisfaction levels of their customers. So yeah, and the thing that they were implementing, again, if we talk about practical aspects, they said it's not simply a chatbot, it's agentic AI where they learn from you. Of course, if they say, I want to speak to a person, they will redirect you to a person, but otherwise it continues to be in the app, basically take over the support fully and try to be as humanly as possible. So again, as we all know, the first place we could potentially apply AI in individual applications or the applications for the individuals is customer support. But moving forward, hopefully there will be more use cases. But at this point, I'm struggling a bit to see the real results just yet.
It makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah,
Well, related to that, I wanted to ask you about innovation in payments, no? Because now we are talking about AI in payments, but I mean, we are seeing like newer rails emerging, no? I mean, real-time payments, like actual real-time payments, blockchain-based
yeah,
payments, stable coins, which are becoming much more successful than before, no?
correct.
AI in payments as well, as we just discussed. So out of
Yeah.
all those new payment innovations, which ones excite you the most, and which ones do you think may be a bit overhyped, perhaps?
Well, I think we can say about all of the latest news or product launch the same thing. They are exciting at the same time, and for the most part, hype, be it AI in payments or agentic commerce or stable coins. If we talk about stable coins particularly, I really like this product, especially it's a very good one in emerging markets. I am, as I said, personally from one of those markets. I'm from Uzbekistan, and in my country, from time to time, the local currency fluctuates significantly, going up and down. And in that, in those periods of time, it's a good idea to have a stable coin like product or stable coin itself to make the payments. And also for the merchants, it's a good idea to get settlements in stable coins. But again, from my conversations with the leaders, different kinds of companies and product leaders in the market, so far seems to be the real usage of such products is low, especially in established markets. For example, in the US, in the US or the UK or a few other European countries, the rails are so well established, and you may simply ask, okay, do we really need stablecoin here? Because again, existing rails or instant rails, they do the same very well, but maybe this is the thing of the future, especially when it comes for the businesses and especially for settlements. Today, I read the news. Visa launched settlements in USDC in the US, starting with Cross River Bank and Lead Bank. I think this type of things will show what will be the adoption. But for me, and this year particularly, if we talk about latest trends, those are agentic commerce and stable coins. They are equally exciting and equally hype from, I would say equally hype from product perspective, because adoption is a bit low. But again, no one wants to be left out. FOMO is very strong here, and everyone wants to be in this hype, not miss out. I think in the next couple of years, hopefully, the real use cases and the adoption curve will go up, hopefully.
Actually, it's very interesting what you said. It reminds me a
Yeah.
bit when what you said now about stable coins and this hype and whether we use them, that we need them that much or not,
Yeah.
Europe, etc. It reminds me a bit as well about central bank digital currencies, because I remember that, well, I mean, it's an area about which or in which I've been involved for a few
Hmm.
years. And I remember that
Yeah.
I was recently last month giving a class at a business school. And there was this student who was quite reluctant towards the idea of CBDCs. And I need to admit that some of the points he made were actually spot on, in the sense that whenever we read, for example, those reports by the European Central Bank about the digital
Mm.
euro, and you see the digital euro will allow this and that, I cannot like stop feeling like, okay, I mean, yes, maybe payments will be a bit faster, a bit this, a bit that, but it's not going to change our lives. It's even, of course, in certain jurisdictions, let's say, um, Sub-Saharan Africa, India, in those cases, perhaps I see a better use case because it can promote financial inclusion. It can really help emerging countries to achieve certain issues they may have right now, when it comes to the amount of unbanked population. But then when it comes to,
Mm.
let's say, the United States, Canada, Europe, I feel like perhaps the use case of CBDCs is not so uh, beneficial for us, maybe as it could
Mm.
be. So I feel like what you said about stable coins is to some extent the same idea, that there is this hype, of course, one talks about that, but in the end, we will need to see like what's the actual benefit and how many people in the end use them, and whether it offers something new to what we have or not. And related to that, I mentioned this point, no,
Mm.
financial inclusion. I wanted to ask you, given that you mentioned that you come from an emerging market, no,
Yeah.
and given the global nature of payments, especially nowadays more than ever, how do you think that fintechs can use payments to drive financial inclusion in those underbanked regions, emerging markets?
This is very, very good question, because I hear it a lot of. I hear this question many, many times, especially when they just moved to Malta, for example.
Mhm.
Until very recently, I was based in Malta, and soon I'll be based in a different country. Um, One of the initial challenges I came across. Look, I moved to Malta for the first 7 days. I didn't have any bank account. I had my Mastercard from local bank here in Uzbekistan, but for some reason it stopped working. And I tried to reach out to my bank here in Uzbekistan. Being in Europe, it was a really challenge because support is not at that level that you wish. And through my friends, I somehow reached out to bank, and they said Malta is among those countries that's excluded for their bank. So basically, their cards will not work in Malta. And
Okay.
I don't know why, but they said simply it will not work in Malta. Okay, what can I do, right? That was the problem, one of the challenges that I had. And then one of my friends over there told me that, and then why I couldn't get bank account over there from the first day was because I didn't have my permit just yet. I didn't have my ID just yet. I didn't have any apartment or contract for the apartment for lease agreement. I didn't have anything like that. And when you are creating an account, the banks usually require
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
those types of documents. However, my friend let me know that Revolut actually onboarded customers without most of those accounts, and that you could upload them later on once you have them. They give you like a 60 days or something like that, then you can upload those documents. I didn't know about that. So if I answer to your question, I think new technologies create really, really um, good opportunity for the banks and emerging fintechs or established fintechs to address new types of the customers, just like myself, for example, right? If I knew that earlier, I would just go and create a Revolut account. And I did create a Revolut account after I found out that it was possible. I just created a Revolut account and I started using it. And also, recently I had a chat with, again, one of my guests on my podcast. He said, about stable coins. This one is about stable coins. He
Mm-hmm.
said that, no, sorry, my mistake. They said it was about tokenized deposits. They are like in pair with stable coins that are emerging just now. So he said they're launching tokenized deposit accounts. Anyone from around the world, they can go register and start using those products. And I said, okay, wow, that's great. I said, I'm not in Europe. I'm not in the US. Can I still go register and start using it? He said, yes, no problem. You can go and start using that, which means you will have a bank account because they give you bank account, US bank account. So answering your question, I think the emerging products that I just mentioned, like such as, let's say, tokenized deposits or other types really create an opportunity to address underbanked or unbanked levels of the population, especially in emerging markets where traditional banks usually refuse to work with you. So yeah, this is just my opinion about financial inclusion.
No, but that's a very interesting one based on your experience as well. And I, who've been living in more than one country, and can tell you that this is certainly an issue. No, this issue that you mentioned before about credit
Absolutely.
cards not working in a place, customer support from your bank, this, that, not being able to open an account because you lack this or that. I mean, these things, people who have never like moved abroad may not be aware of that, but they can actually be quite tricky.
Absolutely.
Or arriving just for tourism in a new country and finding out that this happened to me once, that just because I did a layover in Dubai in between, then I arrived in East Asia. And given that I had used my credit card in 3 different countries, in like, let's say,
Mhm.
a span of 24 hours, my card was blocked because they thought it was
That
weird.
happens.
Yes,
That
it
happens.
happened to me. Like they said, you've used your account has been used in very different countries in, let's say, 15 hours. We suspect there's something
Exactly.
shady going on. Bam, it's locked. And then, okay, call customer support. But customer support was not open because of time difference. So, I was left like, let's say, 14 hours waiting to take a taxi. I couldn't take a taxi or do anything. So these things,
Mm,
uh, I mean, are things that, of course, not everyone encounters, but they can happen. This is why I think that talking about
it
innovation in
happens.
payments, other options, is actually something very interesting, no? Because it can actually affect anyone. You don't need to be a billionaire to find
Absolutely.
yourself in this kind of situations. It can even affect a tourist. It can affect anyone.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you just gave me an idea. In such cases, if you talk about customer support, AI could potentially come very, very handy. Of course, if you give the level of management to the AI saying like, okay, we see Oriel, he's traveling. You just explain, I'm traveling here, here are my tickets, right? So
Mhm.
that's why you see me using my card in 3 different countries within 15 hours, right? Here are the proof. Please unlock me. So if you give the AI the level of management that AI could potentially then unlock you, saying like, yeah, we see the proof, we accept them, we unlock you. Now you can use your card if, for example, support is unavailable because
Mhm.
let's say if it's midnight, of course support will not
Exactly,
be
exactly.
unavailable. Otherwise, or in some other cases, if you don't have data, you can simply not reach out to support because
Mhm.
technically it's not possible. Your phone is not working or whatever. There could be many different reasons. In such cases, new and emerging technologies such as AI and even, let's say, stable coins, if you say your card is not working, but if maybe you work with an organization that offers stable coins, then you don't do payments in local currency or the USD, but you do the payments in stable coins, then they may go through. So it seems to me after our conversation now, I see that new innovative technologies they actually open, um, and increase the financial inclusion for people like us who usually travel on or don't live in one region. Yeah,
That's true. I think that's a good use case, this one that you mentioned.
definitely.
Yeah. And well, before wrapping up, there's one more question I wanted to ask you. I know it can be tricky, but
Yeah.
I mean, looking ahead, like let's say 5, 10 years, what do you think normal payments will look like in, let's say, 2030? Do you think payments will look very different from now because AI will have advanced a lot? We will see stable coins everywhere, or do you think the basics will remain the same as they are now? I know it's difficult to say because, I mean,
It's a very, very difficult to say.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
But based
as I said,
based on the trends that you're seeing now.
mm, mm. No, based on trends I see now, again, I will go to the same two topics that I mentioned earlier. Those are stablecoin payments and AI payments. I am hoping that stablecoin payment levels will increase. But again, mostly in my opinion, it's in emerging countries, but in established countries, the stablecoin become one of those rails that organizations will start using, right? For settlements, for example, Visa started, MasterCard will soon follow the trend 100%. Then hopefully enterprise level companies will also jump in. And again, they will use it as a rail, maybe not every day, but for settlement, it's a very good tool, right? So I'm hoping that it will be one of the mainstream rails by 2030, stable coins, maybe not that in daily usage, not that much in daily usage, but from corporate perspective, from enterprise perspective, they will become one of those rails. But when it comes to AI, again, so far I see it as an assistant. I don't know what will be the level of assistance they will provide by 2030. Maybe by the time they will become even more smarter. But then again, as a human, you still must remain in control, right? So they will remain assistant. With AI, I do not see that many changes happening. Yes, they will become more autonomous. They will be smarter. They will help you, for example, to book, to plan, and etc. But eventually, I think you will still be in the control. It's very hard to say how autonomous they will become, but hopefully the levels will increase and they will take more control of the things. Yeah.
I see. No, that's very interesting. And well, unfortunately, we are reaching the out of our episode, no, but I think that we managed, Sam, to discuss very interesting topics, no? I mean, aside from your background, we discussed AI in payments, new technologies in general in payment, financial inclusion.
Yeah.
You mentioned embedded finance as well. So I think there's a lot to digest for my listeners, no, a lot to process. And of course, I would like to thank you for coming, but I would like as well to encourage my listeners to follow you, Sam, because I know from my own experience that your everything you post on LinkedIn and the rest of social media is very interesting. No, not just
Thank you.
this Fintech Wrap Up project, but in general, like all the posts that you make, no, all your opinions, everything. I think my followers, my listeners are going to learn a lot from following you and engaging with you. So I suggest them to do that. I mean, and I know that you are a very respected voice in the fintech area. You're always known on all those tops every year, know all those rankings because of the amazing content that you produce.
Thank you. No, thank you very much for inviting me. It was a pleasure speaking to you, and I hope I was able to provide some insights to fintech world.
No, you did for sure. You did. I'm sure that my listeners
Thank you
will
very
appreciate
much.
it very much. And thanks again, Sam, for coming. And to all my listeners, thank you for listening to this episode. And please stay tuned for the next ones. I'm going to be happy and excited to release the new ones. Thank you very much.
Thank you.